The truth is left in the ruins, buried us in the lies. We walk in silence till morning. We can't hide, cannot hide. We can't hide, cannot hide.
Today I have the 2013 Audi S5 Quattro and I'm going to be seeing if it's still any good. A question that I like to use here on the channel a lot is it any good? Well, for a car that's over 10 years old now, it certainly still looks very modern and fresh. And in my opinion, this was peak Audi design. When you look at this car's silhouette, you know full well that it is an Audi coupe. It's got that very familiar shape that we all think of. Of course, the car still has the gaping front grille and very smart headlights, but overall, it's a very handsome looking car. And because this is the S5 model, it will stand out just a little bit more than the base diesel model, for example.
There are other things that stand out on this car too. The engine is a smooth and modest 3-litre V6 that is supercharged. Although this car replaced the earlier V8 model, which may seem a bit dimmed down to the purists, the V6 barely offsets the V8 when it comes to performance. Other things as standard are the 19-inch rotor alloys, which you can upgrade to deep concave 20-inch alloys if you want to look like a pimp.
With the V6 you get around 330 horsepower, which is enough to give most cars on the road a run for their money. You also get much better economy compared to the V8 without losing any of the other power. Unfortunately, the sound of the V6 isn't as exciting as the sound of the V8, of course. It's kind of like replacing a very thrilling action book with a Victorian woman's novel. Having said that though, it has got a custom exhaust and a supercharger, and that does sound very nice. In terms of the transmission options, there is two options. This one is the 7-speed dual clutch auto, which obviously you can change gear manually with the flapper paddles here on the wheel, and of course there's a 6-speed manual as well. Now I mentioned some of the stats earlier on, but this car has actually been modified to 440 horsepower instead of the standard 330, and you can really feel it.
Even though it's a bit of a brute on the road, it's surprisingly sensible when you step inside. It's spacious at the front and very comfortable. It also has a boot which is big enough for things. And there's even lots of gadgets to play with too.
So here we are in the interior of the S5, and as you can see it's a very nice place to be. It's very contemporary, and it still pretty much lives up to the standards of today. It's got good standard features. It's got sat-nav, the usual sort of automatic wipers and lights, and it's just, yeah, it's a very nice sort of place to be in here with the leather seats that bucket shaped kind of stop you from moving around. Of course we've got a sunroof here, as you can see, punching through it. With part of the S line, obviously you get these very nice steering wheels with the sort of flat bottoms, and on the steering wheel the flappy pedals have sort of been customised with this carbon fibre trim. And we also have other carbon fibre trim round the whole car as well, here and on the door as well. The dials are still very Audi. They pretty much use them on every Audi. Nothing changed there, but I do find myself quite liking them overall. So then we'll move back into the rear seats of the S5, and as you can see it's a little bit cramped in my opinion. The seats are quite far back, but there isn't too much legroom. It's very sort of limiting, but I'd imagine with the seat forward a bit more it would be all right. The seats in the back are again quite nice and comfortable like the front, and they still are leather as well. There's no sort of decrease in quality back here. Of course we've got the carbon fibre trim here on the doors too. You've also got this compartment here which comes down, you open it and you've got a first aid kit, Audi branded, which I'd imagine they put in there because they know that every owner would floor it, which I understand completely. And you've got a cup holder that comes out as well, which is quite nice and fancy. And there's also this, which when you open in a very awkward way, it comes out and you can basically access the boot. So if you are kidnapped, it's kind of perfect, to be honest. Another cool little feature you get with the S5 is with the very fancy looking key, you can just put it in like you normally would. Then you take it out again, in which you get this smaller key. And then now what you can do is basically just put the air conditioning or heating on, exit the vehicle, lock it with this key, come back to it later, and it'll be all nice and warm or cold. What I do like about this car is that it's a coupe or sportback, and in today's modern car industry, you don't really see many cars rocking this same shape and design. And to be honest, I've kind of missed them. With all these SUVs around these days, it's nice to look back on something that, in my opinion, was a lot better. You still get a good amount of space with a coupe, and overall it's not like driving around in a barge. Now this Audi of course does have the Quattro four-wheel drive system, a bit like every other Audi in the world, which isn't a bad thing of course, because the Quattro four-wheel drive system is very, very good, as we know. Of course, the acceleration with four-wheel drive is very snappy, as you just saw there, and there's going to be a little bit of understeer in the corners, but overall the handling is pretty nice, I'll be honest. The car does have a few different driving modes. If we press Drive Select here, you've got efficiency, comfort, auto, and dynamic, which is my favourite of course, because that makes everything more stiff and sporty, I suppose. And that does open the valve and the exhaust as well, which obviously with the modified exhaust is very loud. So right now I've just set up launch control and we're going to give that a go as well. That's definitely the quickest launch I've had on a car. Did you feel that? That was ridiculous.
That's right. That was awesome.
So to sum up the Audi S5, I think it's a surprisingly fun car to drive. Even though it feels heavy, it's still powerful enough that it's a proper Audi. And with the modifications, it's even faster than before. Even though this car has the V6 instead of the V8, I think it's much better to leave the V8 in the faster Audis and have a more tamed down version that's more affordable. And speaking of, you can pick one of these up for around £15,000 to £20,000 in 2024.
So there we are, that is the Audi S5 review. And if you did enjoy today's review, then make sure you subscribe down below. And of course you can see more behind the scenes and other sort of future video updates on our social media. We'll see you next time.